Well, now I have JoJo and we are live already. Um,
Hey,
JoJo, did you know that today's my birthday?
I did not know that. Oh my
It
God.
is.
Happy
Today is.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank
Oh
you.
my God.
Yes.
Happy birthday, my friend. Wait,
Well, thank you.
are you 37 or
Yeah,
38?
sure. It's funny. I spoke to my dad, first thing this morning. It was his birthday a few days ago, last week to
Uh-huh.
be exact. He turned 90. And I said, "Hey, Pop, how do you feel?" He goes,
Holy shit.
he goes, "I feel like I'm 75." So this morning he asked me, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel like I'm 75." Yeah.
Well,
No,
you
this
look
is my
amazing.
last year. This is my last year before the big 6-0.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? Let's make every decade that you have the best decade that you've ever had because that you are a gift, sir. And I'm very happy to be here with you on your
Well,
birthday.
I'm so thankful to have you, my JoJo. I understand you're having a little trouble getting some hamburgers for the kids.
Okay,
Listen,
so
a mom's job is never done.
let,
My
let
mom reminded me that this morning as well.
Yeah, well, happy birthday to her too, because she'd had you. So happy birthday to your mom for it being your birthday. You know what I mean? Because
I
she,
said the same thing to her.
yeah. So
I don't know why they wish me a happy birthday, right? They
right.
should be wishing her the happy birthday.
Yeah. So just to keep it real, but to your point about the hamburger. Okay, so mom's job is never done. You're 100% right. So I had to go pick my son up at his job, and then he said, "I'm hungry. Can we get some Wendy's?" And I said, "Sure." So I bring him to Wendy's, and we place an order, and we get the bag, and then we leave, and we come home, and my daughter's like, "Where's my cheeseburger?" And I was like, "Oh God." So it's on the receipt. So of course I'm like, "But I don't have a lot of time because I have to be on this live with Michael at 4 o'clock, and it's like 3:35." And she's like, "It's fine." So then of course the line is really long. And then we get to I go back up and the lady's like, "We chased you. We chased you out into the parking lot to give you your cheeseburger and you just took off." And I was like, "Oh my God, I feel so bad." But yeah, so literally my daughter, I dropped her off and you came back here and now I'm doing this with you. So yeah, motherhood, it does.
No, it
Anybody who's
reminds me of the Joe Pesci one. They fuck you through the drive-through. They fuck you through the drive-through. You know?
but they were so nice, and I was nice, like, because some people could be dicks, and I'm like, it happens, shit happens. If this is the worst thing that happened in my day, I'm doing just fine. So they
You're
were so
doing just
nice
fine.
that they gave us a free French fry. So my daughter got a bonus French fry. And by the way, can we just like sidebar? And I know I'm going to go off on a tangent, but let's keep it real. I was a waitress for like 22 years or something like that, and I never understood for as long as I did it. I never understood how the worst thing that could happen to someone in their day was that the dressing came on the salad when they wanted it on the side, or it had mayo on it when they asked for no mayo, and they would freak out. And it's like, can you please take stock of the fact that you're sitting in a restaurant right now when a lot of people don't even have a roof over their heads or a single bite of food to eat, and you're losing your mind because there's dressing on your salad?
I mean, it's just so easy to say, "I'm so sorry, I can't eat the dressing," or can you have another one made for me? I mean, but yeah, I've seen people throw shit fits beyond shit fit over the smallest thing. Speaking about shit fits, did you have a chance at all within which to watch the press conference with the president of South Korea?
So I was recording a podcast with Joe Walsh today and then doing this mom thing. So I saw one clip where he says something about comfortable women, and it is verbal diarrhea that makes so little sense that I had to read it out loud to a friend of mine on the phone and ask them who they thought said it, and they instantly knew it was him. That's all I saw. I did see more clips of the gaggle in where he was covering his hand leading up to that, but where he talked about being a
Why
dictator.
can I ask you? I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
can I ask you why? By the way, did you see me yet last night on MSNBC?
No, I did not. Where was
Oh
I
my
last night?
God,
Oh, I was
it,
back to school shopping. I'm sorry. I missed it.
man, man, this relationship is falling so quick.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like right now is like, it's back to school
I
time.
know,
So I'm
right?
in the mall weeds. Be
So
right.
it was so crazy. I can't tell you the number of people today on this Substack platform. Um, on social media platforms from X to Blue Sky to Threads, everywhere, Instagram, turn and ask me, "What's wrong with his hand? What's wrong with his hand? What's wrong with his hand?" What's the difference? The part that I'm trying to understand from people, is it because Obviously it's black and blue, and they're covering it up with some sort of a base, like a skin tone base.
Mhm.
Is that going to make us win the 2026 midterm election? My friends, I
Well,
say this, I say this, and I say this in the most respectful of manner.
mhm,
To those of us that played sports, we tried to play competitive sports and so
mhm.
on. Eye on the prize. What's the
Mm,
what's the prize? The prize is our democracy. It's our
mhm,
constitution. The
mhm.
prize, for God's sakes, is making sure that Democrats end up taking either the House, the Senate, or both. All right. Don't worry about his hand. Don't worry about his hair. Don't worry about any of that. That's not going to win us the election.
It's your birthday, and I wanna be as respectful as humanly possible and deference to you on your special day, but
Oh,
I
you know you're not
politely
going to.
and respectfully disagree with you on this, and I will tell you fundamentally why. Um, because what they did, hello, Jake Tapper, I'm looking at you, regarding Joe Biden's health and how they made that they did dissertations on his bike rides, okay? They made the cover up of the century about what he and his aides and his staff kept from the American people, that we deserved to know that he was not well,
I'm
that
with
he
you
was
100%.
okay. Okay. So, first of all, the double standards and hypocrisy that have so long been in place as it pertains to Donald Trump, and the sane washing and the whitewashing and the downplaying and the both sidesing and the normalizing, and I'm sick of it. And I'll tell you what, the American people actually do deserve to know what is going on with the person who is tasked with
Mhm.
our security, with our nuclear codes, the person who's supposed to be steering the ship, right? All the arguments that all of them have made and continue to make about Joe Biden's cognitive decline as it pertains to him not really being the president, and that nullifies the
Okay,
actions that he
so
took.
so let's just break it down here. You used the right words. It was cognitive decline, right? The bruising on the hand has nothing to do with cognition.
You
It's
asked me if I saw that thing.
right.
He's clearly in cognitive decline, not to mention what is going on with his physical health. You don't say the comfort of women, but Japan was not into it, and North Korea was, or South Korea was very into it. He rambles, Michael. He is
Yeah.
clearly in the throes of some sort of
Well,
mental slipping.
so while I acknowledge everything, and I absolutely agree, the American people have every right to know about the status of the health. And I'm not talking about cognition, I'm talking about the physical health of our president. We have that right. They should be releasing it instead of having the doctor who's on the payroll, so to speak, who's going to say he's the healthiest president of
Yeah,
anybody. In fact, that he's healthier than he was when he was 21. Okay,
yeah,
great, right?
yeah.
Just because you say it doesn't make it into a reality. My point is, nobody was talking about the nonsense that he was saying to the president of South Korea. They want to now take Subic, which is a base in South Korea. Allegedly, they lease it to us. I think they leased it to us for $1, something like that. But no, we should own it, that they were paying us billions until Joe Biden. There was so much nonsense. He started talking about Obama, and all this other stuff. But again, this this whole this whole nonsense, it's not changing the way people think in terms of going into this 2026 midterm election. It's just not, right? And all you have to do is turn around and say to yourself, I've heard the same scenario when Kamala Harris was running against Trump. That look at all the people, they did this everywhere, everywhere. Look at all the people that are leaving the Trump rallies. Look at them. There's thousands of empty seats and so on. Look at Kamala Harris's people are screaming and yelling and yada yada. No, no, he won. All right. And I am so concerned. I really am. And I said this today to this woman as I was walking with my wife who went into a store. Um, she wanted to get a new top. And I turned around and we were talking about it. We know her quite a long time. And she brought up, what do you think all of this federalization of the DC police is all
Mhm.
about? And I said, Mike, the truth, I believe, and I know this sounds dystopian, that there will not be a 2026 midterm election. I believe that he will cancel the elections. He will have those that are members of Congress remain in Congress for another 2 years. And if there's going to be any riots or any protests, he now has military, he has the police in the blue states, which are the only places where they would be protesting, right? Republicans would think this is the greatest thing of all, and he will cancel the midterm elections. That's something that I think about. Is it legitimate? Is it legitimately possible? I believe so. I really do believe so. And I know people say, no, it's not possible. He's managing to change the game. And that's why I say we need to start reaching out into red states. We need to start reaching out into the purple districts and reaching out and taking people's hands and saying, this is not what you want. I'm not asking you to switch your party affiliation. You need to call yourself Republican, knock yourself out. I'm just saying, not having a divided house is very dangerous. And look at your own lives.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple things I want to say. Part of the reason that he won in 24 was because the media, legacy media, downplayed and normalized his mental state of mind, but his physical condition as well. Like you just look at the debate that no doubt Joe Biden did terribly in, but no one ever really analyzed how Trump did in that debate, which was terribly, right? All the focus was on Biden and everything Trump did, which was ramble incoherently and nonsensibly and utterly like insanely about everything under the sun that wasn't true. Like they didn't treat those two things the same. They've never treated Donald Trump and his blatant, unabashed insanity with the kind of respect, so to speak, that it's deserved and demanded. They have long been downplaying it and trying to both sides things so that they looked fair and balanced. And that's part of why I think it's incumbent upon all of us, you, me, everybody out there, everybody watching this, and hello to all 706 of you, 19 of you, welcome. It's incumbent
Yeah, by
upon
the way,
us to
keep smashing that red heart for JoJo and do me a big favor and hit that, square with the up arrow. Share this with your family and friends. I know that there's always, other people that jump on. There's always somebody that's doing a live. This is the only place that you're going to get raw and unfiltered facts. And we don't necessarily agree on everything, but I tell you one thing that we agree on, that our Constitution is in trouble, our democracy is in trouble. Go ahead,
yeah.
JoJo. You were saying?
So so I wanted to touch on that too. I it is 1000% in trouble, and what I believe and agree with you 1000%. And we don't agree on everything, and that's good. That's good because what we agree on at the end of the day, just like with me and Joe Walsh, is that we want to preserve and defend and protect this democracy so that we can leave this world better than the way we found it for our children and our children's children. And I think fundamentally, and I've been called naive for this for a long time, but I think fundamentally that the American people do actually stand in favor of continuing democracy. I actually think that they want by the people, of the people, sorry, we the people. They want to have a voice. They want to have a say. And we've seen that in ballot measure after ballot measure after ballot measure in red states like Kansas, Ohio, etc. Even Florida, but they cheated in Florida because they raised the threshold to above a 50% level, which is cheating. But by and large, when you remove a candidate and you just put democracy in front of the American people, they say, I want to continue to have this right. I want this to be, and whether it's a constitutional republic, whether it's democracy, whatever the word you want to use, they actually still want a say in shaping the futures for this country, for themselves, for their children, for their families, etc. And you are right about all of that being not only under threat, it's being dismantled before our very eyes. And
It's
and
small
it
piece by small piece.
well,
Yeah,
that's how it
I
goes. But that's
yeah,
how
I
it
mean, I
goes.
wrote I
That's
wrote about it in
yeah.
earlier Substack where I say, authoritarianism doesn't just jump in, take you overnight with
No.
tanks and bombs and guns. It doesn't. What it does is it erodes from the
Yeah.
fabric. It's like one piece of string at a time
Yep.
until ultimately you've dismantled the entire. But talk about the the problem that I have when I watch these press conferences that go on in the Oval is that there's so little truth that
Mhm.
is actually coming out of that office. And I I get so frustrated because I don't understand necessarily why they think that the lie is better than the truth. Can I give you a great example?
Mhm.
Okay. So today, while sitting at the desk after doing yet another round of executive orders, he's doing that favored nation pharmaceutical order.
Mhm.
Okay. And once again, he goes on to talk about how the United States is going to see a 1,400% decrease in the price of drugs.
Mhm.
1,400%.
Yeah.
And so I did the calculation. My migraine medicine, which if I didn't have insurance, is $100 a pill, Qulipta or Ubrelvy. They're both $100 a pill, if you could even get it.
Mhm.
If in fact that was actually the truth, and I ended up getting a 1,400% reduction in the price, like, bless you, sweetheart,
Thank you.
by filling that prescription, I would end up with a $1,300 rebate.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That sounds like a great deal. I'm
Yep.
loving it. All right. Why not turn around and say, I am passing this favored nation policy? So if you look at the difference in the price of drugs from Canada to the United States, the price, say, per pill is about 70% less, 70 plus percent less. Let's just use the round number of 70.
Mhm.
That's a major win.
Yeah.
You imagine if instead of paying $100, you're paying 30?
Mhm.
I mean, why say 1,400%? Who is going ahead and who is feeding him this stupidity?
No
Again,
one.
going on. No, 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 no. I'm telling you, he has it. They enablers, whether it's the Stephen Millers or whomever it might be, they constantly reinforce to him this 1,000, 1,200, 14, even 1,500%. It's just, it's just silly
I
instead of just taking the win, which it would be at 70%.
I'm not gonna pretend to know him or the inner workings of, let's call it, his mind like you do and have. But I will say this, like, what I have observed when it comes to Donald Trump and lying is that what may start with a simple lie, like, I ended 3 wars, okay?
7.
So well, okay, I'm just saying, like, follow me here. At first it was 3, and then it was 6, and then it was 7, and then it was 10. So that's what he does with everything. And you could go as far back as when he was calling the New York Rags as his own publicist, whether it was David Dennison or whatever one of the other
No,
aliases.
it was John Barron.
John Barron, whatever. He had several aliases, right? But okay, so John Barron is calling up who? The New York Post, whatever. It's not enough for John Barron, Donald Trump's publicist, to be telling stories about his virality. It's not enough for John Barron, Donald Trump's publicist to say, oh, he went out on a date with some hot movie star. John Barron, Donald Trump, had to call and spin these incredibly tall tales about what an uber masculine male, irresistible to all the most famous ladies all over New York City. Madonna is begging to date him, right? That's what Donald Trump does. He doesn't just lie a little. So what I think, to your point, probably happened was someone said, sir, here's the numbers that you love, sir, while they were filleting him under the desk. You lowered drug prices by $70 or whatever it was. Sorry for the visual. But then he heard that, and maybe he said that once or twice, and he's like, that's not big enough for me. I need more. Then I'm going to say it was 1,100% less. So that's not big enough for me. I need more. And now it's 1,400% less expensive. Like, he can't just tell a regular lie, even if there is a win in the mix somewhere, some element, some wrinkle of truth. He is not capable with just letting that be. It has to get bigger and bigger until his doctors are saying he could live to 200 years old. I mean, again, this is someone who paints himself now some shade of nuclear orange I'm fairly certain you can see from space. What started with maybe a little bronzer is now full-on melted Oompa Loompa, okay? And this is a person who's like, I look good with a little bit of color, who has now gone so far afield that he is visible from space. So I don't think that it's somebody said you reduced drug prices 1,400% or that you solved 10 wars. I think that he can't help himself because he's like, he needs more. That's it. He just needs more. And his grasp on reality is such that he doesn't care about facts or numbers. Those things be damned. Now we know he'll just fire you. He'll fire you if you tell him numbers he doesn't want to hear. He'll fire you. He'll replace you as the mayor of D.C. He'll take over your police force. He'll fire you if you're the second in line of the Fed. I'm sorry, but I think that this 1,400 number came from some glimmer of truth, and he just spun it and spun it and spun it till now that's where we're at.
But the problem in the anger that I always feel is that the press, who's there in that room, he threw somebody out of the room today. I don't know, maybe they sneezed or something like that. No, seriously, he threw them out of the room. But nobody follows up with a question. Nobody follows up with a fact, Mr. President. Listen, let's all turn around and say, if you could reduce drug prices, we would turn around and say that is a major win for all Americans. It's a major win for Republicans, for Democrats, for independents, for all Americans.
Joe Biden did that.
Because drug prices are way too high. In fact, former President Biden actually accomplished that. But if you could even expand on it, make it better, that would be a major win. I just want to break down for you the notion of 1,400%. So if the pill is $10, if in fact, hypothetically, you were able to reduce it by 100%, what would the price be, sir?
Right.
Mathematically, what would the price be on that specific pill?
Right.
And if you get 100% off, the price is zero. So now if it's 1,400%, 1,400, that's 14 times the amount of now zero. Would that not then turn around, and would it not then mean that they have to pay you for filling the drug prescription? Ask him a question like that. Got another one for you. Got another one that I was so furious about today. One of the reasons he claims that he had to federalize the police in D.C. Is because D.C. is crime-ridden prior to his 9 days of doing so, which it's now the safest city anywhere. There is zero crime. Zero. By the way, Palm Beach has more crime and always has, by the way, than than D.C. Just so that people know. But he claims that the top 25 crime-ridden cities are all with Democratic-controlled mayors and governors.
Mhm.
That is statistically, empirically, and factually inaccurate.
Right.
No, Edward, don't say they're afraid of him. This is the press. They're not supposed to be.
No.
Facts matter. And if facts don't matter to the press, well, then, by the way, you're not press, you're Sean Hannity, right?
Amen.
You're a Tucker Carlson. You
Yeah.
are not a journalist. You're not a reporter. You are
No.
a talk show host,
Yeah.
which is what Hannity said he was. So let me just break this down, sir. Do you know what city has the highest crime rate in all of the United States?
Isn't it in Kentucky? Isn't it Memphis?
I think it's Memphis.
That's Tennessee,
Right.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Tennessee.
And then you have Louisiana, and then you also have Cleveland, Ohio, and there's another
Yeah.
place in Ohio as well. In fact, Mr.
Parts of
President,
Florida.
Mr. President, if I may be so bold as to just provide you with some factual data, the top 5 of your 25 list are all
Okay.
ruby red,
Mhm.
Republican controlled cities and states.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, somebody said I should stop playing with my hair. I play with my hair because it comforts me, and it's just something that I've always done. So I'm not gonna stop playing with my hair. If I want to play with my hair, I'm gonna play with my hair. Apologies if that offends anybody. I just want to put that out there because I do this sometimes just to calm myself down or to whatever, comfort myself. And we all got to do what we got to do. And I'm gonna do me, and you do you. So yeah, I'm just gonna put that out there before I jump right on into to answering what Michael just said, because something else that pisses me off about how he's not getting pushback on this litany of harangue of perpetual fire hose of lies is when he talks about the money that he's bringing in on the tariffs because of the tariffs. And he says over and over and over again, we've raised $1 billion from the tariffs and these are being paid by China, etc. No, no. You're paying the tariffs. We know that because prices are going up because everyone from PlayStation to tractor companies to big box stores to grocery stores are telling you that they're raising prices right now because of the tariffs. We are paying the tariffs. So it's pissing down your back and telling you it's raining. When you say we're bringing in all this money thanks to the tariffs, what you're not saying, what the press is not asking him is, but Mr. President, don't the American people pay the tariffs? Here are these companies that have said publicly, we are raising our prices because of the tariffs. Why isn't the press asking him about that? Why isn't that a follow-up? And I will say this one thing, because you and I are very good friends with Brian Karem. And Brian Karem knows that press pool better than probably anybody. The man is just a fucking genius, first of all, but he knows that press pool. He knows how to cover the
He's
White
been
House.
thrown out of that press pool
Well,
and had
that's
his
what I was going to
credentials
say.
taken too. Yeah.
This is what I was to say. He will tell you that is like a gelded version of the White House press corps. That is like, it's the few people who are in there who are supposed to actually be real reporters, real journalists, who aren't friggin' Marjorie Taylor Three Toes boyfriend and Deucey Light. They've been handpicked by Donald Trump because they play enough of the game to stay in his favor, right? But that's not a real press pool anymore, which should worry and scare all of us, because all of the things they criticize Joe Biden about not doing enough press availabilities, not talking to journalists frequently enough, not having enough of these stand-ups or gaggles or whatever, Donald Trump has these, and he has handpicked journalists in the room, and he tells his own lies that he doesn't get any pushback on. So give me Joe Biden not talking to the press 1,000 times a week over this.
Yeah, I get your point. The problem is his Biden's. I don't even talk about Biden anymore any more than I stopped talking, for example, about Obama or anybody else. Right now, here's the issue: we have a president who's not going anywhere. By the way, not going anywhere. And actually, somebody just listed for us the most dangerous cities in the United States are Memphis, Tennessee, Tacoma, Washington,
Really?
Pueblo, Colorado,
Hmm.
Oakland
We're
in
talking murder
California.
rates? What are we talking? We
Yeah.
talking crime, violent crime? Like, I don't know what, like, just so I know. Like, I think we're
Yeah, I
talking
don't know. I don't know.
murder.
Somebody check that. But here's the point I was trying to make. Right now, we could talk about Joe Biden's people around him who kept him hidden, which they did. They coddled him because they were they thought that they were like the levers of power, and they didn't want anything to come in between, that for them. It's very selfish. As far as I'm concerned, Biden's handlers are the ones that fucked this country up big time. But right now we have a bigger problem. The problem is we have a Republican controlled White House
Mhm.
with a whole group of sycophants that whatever Trump thinks, as bad as the impulse might be, it's okay to have a bad impulse. We all have bad impulses. However, you don't act on them because you know they're bad. But what if everybody around you told you, yeah, sounds great, Mr. President. I'm right in there with you. Shoulder to shoulder. I'm there with you, pal. All right. Love the idea of tariffs. In fact, we should whack China with 100% tariff. You know how bad that this is right now? Jojo, if you ordered something from Europe, all right,
Mhm.
let's just say the UK, the problem, for example, like DHL, I don't know if you saw the
Mm.
statement that came out of DHL. DHL from overseas has now stopped taking packages to the United States.
Mm.
Ask me why.
Why?
Great question. And the reason why, Jojo, is because they don't know how to calculate the tariff.
Huh.
There is no actual policy
Yeah.
or guideline within which to do this.
Right.
Okay. Ask me if there's anything more involved here.
Michael, is there anything more involved here?
Boy, you really know this stuff. So the answer, of course, my Jojo, is yes. What else you may be asking? Well, how about the fact they don't even know who to pay? There is actually no place within which to remit the payment. So imagine now you're in the UK and you're going to send a top, right? You're going to buy something from Harrods and have it shipped to the United States. Normally, it would come through DHL. It would get held in customs by a customs agent for Harrods, right? And they would then give it to the US agent, but you have to pay, especially now based on the tariff. They have no idea. Literally, they have no idea how to calculate the tax or who to pay it. So they said, until we get some clarification, sorry, we're not taking any packages.
I mean, it's remarkable again because it shows you the kind of impact the president of the United States can have, not just on the United States, right? But on institutions all over the world, on the
Right.
entire global economy, which very much relies upon consistency, right? They all need to be able to, like you said, to understand, to calculate these things. The markets too. It's so volatile with Taco at the helm that it's impacting so many other elements of just the entire globe. And that's why I think our standing in the world right now, when you look at how far we've fallen, where other countries used to look at us to set the standards, right? On everything from economic issues to cultural issues to political issues to, humanitarian and philanthropic issues of helping people around the world, maintaining democracies, feeding the hungry, stopping the spreads of diseases, etc. No one can count on us. Our global partners are looking around going, look, the US is kind of out of this equation right now. I mean, that's partly why I think we saw all those world leaders drop everything they were clearly had a million things on their calendars. These are not people who are just like, oh, on a whim, I'm going to fly to the US and like just talk to the president. But they all showed up because something they learned that he did and or said in Anchorage, Alaska, related to Putin and Ukraine Because they know that shit that none of us know because they have better intelligence in places like the UK than we do. And whatever it was shook them because Taco himself must have said something, promised something. God only knows that when Zelensky was coming here, they came here not to necessarily have Zelensky's back, but to hopefully be a bulwark against whatever the heck craziness shook Carolyn Levitt to the point that the press described her as looking ashen after that meeting. So the rest of the world is looking at us right now, and it's like we have like a rabid, hangry, in need of a nap and a diaper change toddler who is standing in the middle of the room spewing applesauce all over the walls. And that's how he's coming up with diplomacy. He's like, oh, that one looks like what? I'm going to make a deal now based on this applesauce stain. They are looking to us no longer as that leader around the globe because they can't trust us because he reversed his position on everything from the tariffs to his position on Putin to Ukraine to Gaza to Iran to the economy. The world is like, we can't trust them because you can't. And that's this DHL thing. I didn't know that, but it makes so much sense.
No, DHL. So what about all the people that work at DHL?
Yeah.
What about everybody in the distribution centers and then
Right.
the DHL drivers and
Mm-hmm.
the union and so on? They're all going to be out of work simply because, well, okay, according to Trump, tariffs are bringing in billions and billions of dollars, right? What about, I mean, he then had another line today about how he just made America $11 billion. By the way, $11 billion is a lot of money. But as it relates to our GDP, our gross domestic product, which is 27.8 trillion, the way that you would have to describe 11 billion is like a pimple on a hippopotamus's ass.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's just what it is. All right. It's a shit ton of money. Don't get me wrong. And where did that $11 billion come from? Someplace I have been trying to research this and I cannot figure the answer out. I cannot. Somewhere along the line, he managed to get Intel
Yeah.
to give the United States 10% of its shares,
Mm-hmm.
which has a value, an acquisition value of $11 billion. Now,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I just don't understand. And I would like to see the paperwork on it. I would like to understand how the United States just acquired 10% of a publicly traded company on the exchange. All right. So let's say hypothetically that Intel has 100 million shares.
Mm-hmm.
100 million. So what did the United States just pick up 10 million shares? No. I'm just trying to figure out.
I don't know.
Did they
Where does it go?
create some new class of shares? Doesn't that need to be voted on by more than just the board? Doesn't it need to be voted on by every shareholder? How did this work? According to Trump, the United States did not purchase that stock. Amazon just gave it to them. Now, it would be another thing if the, say, leading shareholder in Intel pledged 10% of the company in his shares and turn them over to the United States. How does that even work? More importantly, does it not then create some sort of a unfair advantage to Intel in terms of government contracts at some point? I'm so confused how
It's
this
called
works.
extortion, Michael. It's called extortion. And we don't have any way to verify any of this, by the way. And we can't trust any of the numbers that are coming out of this administration, because we've now seen that if you tell the truth about the numbers, you'll be fired. And by the way, the Trump family has made $3.4 billion.
No, no, not
Don't
true.
ask me. That's according to MSNBC 8 days
Not
ago.
true. It's not true. It's wrong.
Okay, that's not just MSNBC's reporting, by the way. This is reporting from NBC News as well, ABC News, CNBC. At least $3.4 billion since
No,
he's taken office
no,
this time.
he's made over 9 billion.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So even better. I'm sorry. My
They're
apologies.
not even in the ballpark. All you have to do is take a look at his Liberty coin, take a
Yeah,
look at the crypto, take
right.
a look at the number of shares that he has, for example, in Truth Social, and then turn around and take a couple of the other, the other companies that have been started. Maybe he himself under his name,
Okay.
3.4 and
Well, it
so on.
says
But there's
family.
another
Yeah,
6 billion that has been made
yeah.
by Trump and Trump related entities. Listen, he has made a ton, but please go ahead.
No,
I
but Michael,
want
to
you
your
to,
point,
I
to your
want people to understand that when JoJo and I have these conversations, it's facts
yeah.
and facts matter. And NBC is not accurate
No,
about
okay, okay.
3.4. It's over
But
9 billion.
okay, right. And an even bigger scandal in terms of this story is that whether or not they're getting the numbers right, which they should get the numbers right, this is the biggest scandal in U.S. presidential history, and it should be on the front page and at the top of every news hour. For any legacy media outlet that claims to be holding, to be fair and unbiased and balanced, because on its face, this is anti-democratic corruption, but it's also this sliding degradation, this sliding scale into the normalization of us being a kleptocracy, of us being helmed by a despot, by an authoritarian, by someone who does not care about the constraints of the office in any way, shape, or form, and isn't even pretending, because no one is holding him accountable for any of this. And the fact that this isn't a bigger scandal, the fact that we can be distracted by this, that, and the other thing, and the fact that we're not even talking about Epstein anymore, it's all, it scares the living shit out of me, and it makes me even more grateful for the 1,300 people who are here, for the conversations that I have with people like you, for the conversations you have every day, including on your birthday, which if you're late to joining, it's Michael's birthday. Like this should be a very, very big deal. It should be a fire alarm that everybody is talking about, that your friends are talking about, because while the rest of us are getting screwed with higher prices on everything because of this taco tariff shit, he and his family are walking away with billions. That doesn't even mention the airplane, or the fact that he's building a ballroom that will cost $200 million that he says that he's financing. We don't have any proof of that. And why are you building a $200 million ballroom for the White House you'll be gone from unless you don't plan on leaving?
Well, that could be one, but two, because he'll obviously name it after himself. So therefore, the name will be associated to the White House for all eternity. Every president, Republican, Democrat, Independent in the future, will turn around and say the annual presidential gala at the Trump Pavilion
Oh my
Ballroom.
God.
I mean, that's what it would say. This is a legacy play, and you know what? There
Yeah,
you
we can
have it.
change
But
it.
I
We're
want to
taking the
jump
rose
on.
garden back too, by the way. We're taking that. We're pulling up that fucking patio. I'm sorry, but that fires me up. That's a sacred place. That is a place of reverence. You're supposed to preserve these things. That was Jackie O's grass. They were Jackie O's trees. That fucking abomination. I'm sorry, Michael, but this one, every time I think about it fires me up in a way that very few things do, because that place is sacred to me. And they turned it into Mar-a-Lago. It's disgusting, right, guys? It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
So, all right, let me jump on to this whole topic. As I was saying to you at the beginning of our hour here, that I was on MSNBC
Oh
last,
yeah.
and one of the topics, of course, they brought me on is regarding the raid by the FBI of John Bolton's home and office. Obviously, you may all remember on April 9th of 2018, my home, my law office, the hotel I was staying at were all raided by the FBI. So I clearly have some knowledge. And, what I had said, early on was that the FBI, they were absolutely professional. They didn't, as, Trump and others are saying, wreck the place. They didn't cut through pillows and knock down walls and so on.
Mhm.
They didn't do any of that. They were incredibly respectful and very decent, and they were executing a search warrant, very
Mhm.
much like what happened with John Bolton. My prediction that I gave on MSNBC is that James Comey is next,
Mhm.
along with they had an entire flywheel of individuals, Miles Taylor, Tish James, Alvin Bragg, you name it. They Chris Christie. There was a multitude of names, for example, on this pinwheel of people that are on the enemies list that are right now in the crosshairs. And I turned around and I said, "Oh, Donna, you saw me? What'd you think?" So one of the things that I turned around and I said, mark my words on this. Every single one of those people on that flywheel will be indicted. Every single one of them will be indicted. And I broke down the reasons why. How hard is it to get a judge to sign off on a search warrant? And when they go in, understand they're not going in for the purpose of just a show. That's just the beginning of the show. That's not even the first act. That's the first 5 minutes. The real act, right? And the crescendo to the play comes in when they get the guy with the hands behind the back self-surrendering to prison. Every one of these people will be indicted. They will be prosecuted. There's not a doubt in my mind. Donald Trump has created a presidential toolbox
Mhm.
that it's almost unstoppable at this point because he doesn't just control the White House, the DOJ, the FBI, the NSA, Secret Service. He controls it all. He's also controlling the House of Representatives and the Senate. He's also controlling the judiciary. It's
Mhm.
one of the reasons, as an example, he's so angry that Alina Habba
Mhm.
is not being permitted to remain as the U.S. attorney for the state of New Jersey.
Mhm.
Okay. What will ultimately happen? Every single one of these folks. And they're like, yeah, but they didn't do anything wrong. Bullshit. Okay. There's all these sort of allegations about mortgage inaccuracies and so on. With all due respect, at the bottom of every one of those mortgage documents, it turns around and says, you are required to double check to ensure that the information provided is accurate, is truthful and accurate. If it's not, it's a violation. It lists the code, and the section. They will hold them accountable for it. And I'm going to be very, very clear. I believe each and every one of them will ultimately be convicted as well because
Mm.
he's controlling the courts
Mm.
on top of everything. Understand, he has changed the game.
Well,
And
I
that's why I say my the only thing, JoJo, that I care about right now is eye on the prize. And the
Mhm.
prize is to ensure that either the House, the Senate, or both end up turning Democrat. Otherwise, there is no checks and balances.
Y yes, agreed with you about all of the things that he controls, and this should again, going back to something we talked about at the top of this conversation, whether or not you're a Democrat, a Republican, independent, or, you're a Martian, by and large, the American people do actually believe in the idea of democracy, and they also believe in the rule of law. I would say that by and large, right? Like we've seen that's chipped away repeatedly by everything that Donald Trump is doing and what he's being enabled, emboldened, and allowed to do. Remember, one of the original sins here is that Republicans could have stopped him from being able to even run for this office if they had actually convicted him in his Senate impeachment trial after January 6th. But Mitch McConnell infamously pussied out, right? If Mitch had whipped those votes the way he could have and should have, they would have convicted him in that impeachment trial, and they should have. So he's got all these enablers who are allowing all of this to happen. But I will say, to your point too, I haven't yet lost complete faith in the impartiality of our judicial system. I haven't. Like, I will say that in some cases, the court has been the only institution that has been holding up until this point. And we've seen that in lots of cases. And not every court is beholden to Donald Trump. Sure, they would love very much for that to be the case, and they are working towards that end. But in this moment, that is not necessarily the reality that we live in. And I also want to just say, so that people don't get disheartened, because this is very important. What you're saying is right. If we reclaim the House of Representatives, it's game over in many ways for Donald Trump and this tyranny that he is inflicting upon the American people right now, because there will be true accountability. And they can impeach him. Will he be
Well,
convicted
they
if we
can't.
don't?
The impeachment comes from the Senate, and
No, the
basically,
impeachment comes from the House. It
no, the
originates.
articles of impeachment come, but the actual impeachment
Correct.
comes from the
But
Senate.
I'm saying, but the act of the articles of impeachment originate in the House of Representatives. And by the way, I'm not sleeping on the fact that it is not impossible. It is a very, very steep hill that we will take the Senate too. The math doesn't look great, but we also live in extraordinary times, and we've seen stranger things happen. We've seen stranger things happen. If you asked me if Donald Trump was going to win in 2016 or 2024, I would have told you no fucking chance, but here we are. So I'm not going to say that it's impossible that we will take the Senate too. I'm not. We are in very uncharted waters right now. But you said you didn't believe necessarily that he would let a midterms happen earlier. And I don't want people to reside there. I'm afraid that if people live in this mentality where we're not going to get to have free and fair elections in the midterms, I don't want people to think that they should therefore just give up, because that's one thing that we can actually work towards. And people always say, they say to you all the time, I'll bet, what can I do? What can we do? I feel so powerless. I feel so hopeless. I feel like there's nothing. There are no levers of power. I feel powerless. And when you look at what Gavin Newsom is doing and what the Texas Democrats just did in forcing this conversation by shining a light on what the Texas Republicans did for Donald Trump, that was why they redrew their maps to give him 5 Republican seats. It was the perfect phone call in Georgia all over again, except this time the Republicans said, yes, sir, may I have another? And in that time in Georgia, the Republicans said, no, sir, we're not going to do that for you. So what Gavin Newsom is doing right now is giving me a shit ton of hope, because he's
Right.
not saying that we're not having a
Okay,
midterms.
and that's
He's
my
saying,
point.
bring it, bring it.
But that's my point. My point is apathy automatically puts us behind, not just behind the 8 ball, the game would be over. And that's
Yeah.
why when I
Oh,
turn
yeah.
around and I say these things, I am saying it to get people to become more concerned, because my hope is that the more concerned, the more vocal you'll be, the more active you will get. And
Yeah.
as I will say, as we close down our hour, as a birthday gift, I
Mhm.
ask everybody to do me a favor at the very top in that Chiron. If you press onto it and you're a Michael supporter, please support my friend JoJo over here. All right. Even though she twiddles her hair, please support JoJo. And if you're a JoJo supporter, please make sure that you follow me as well. Um, you know, I want people to get active. You know, one of the problems that I found in 2025 for that election is people weren't angry enough. They weren't scared enough. They just were unfortunately apathetic. I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like the things he says. I don't like what he's doing, but I can't vote for this black woman. I mean, that to me is the stupidest thing in the world. And what's worse is that this is not an election for Trump. This is election for those people who are spineless and feckless, and that their only job is to rubber stamp whatever comes out of this Trump administration. That's not somebody that you want in office. That's somebody, in fact, that you want to throw out of office. So, Jojo, let you sign us off and give you the last word.
Oh, well, Well, thank you. And again, happy birthday. And I hope you have wonderful plans ahead for the evening that include like a delicious steak if you eat steak and a nice glass of Barolo or some nice, beautiful Italian red. And that you have a wonderful, peaceful night's sleep, given where we are. And I just wanted to close with this quote because there's a book that I read in the lead up to the 2016 election called How Democracies Die. And if you haven't read it, it's a wonderful book, and they have a follow-up of that I can't remember the title of right now. But when you were talking about how democracy, how, autocrats take power and how, democracies die, this quote came to my mind, and I just wanna read it if that's okay before we exit because this is to me the moment that we are facing. And it's the drift into authoritarianism doesn't always set off alarm bells. Citizens are often slow to realize that their democracy is being dismantled, even as it happens before their eyes. And that has been happening. That has been happening since 2016, since the rails were removed to consistently allow for this person to ascend to positions of power that he did not deserve. I've talked about this where they moved the line when he mocked a disabled reporter, they moved the line when he demeaned a POW, they moved the line when he attacked a Gold Star family. They moved the line when he bragged about grabbing women by the pussy. They moved the line when he tanked our economy and let a million people die from COVID while saying it is what it is. They moved the line when he attacked the citadel of our democracy in order to stay in an office that he had lost. They moved the line when he was convicted on 34 felony counts and found liable of sexual abuse and business fraud. And by the way, thank you to you for those 34 felony convictions. They moved the line on Vladimir Putin. They've moved the line on Jeffrey Epstein. And they are moving the line on whether or not we have a functioning democracy in this country the way the founders intended it. They are moving the line and letting authoritarianism slide into power in full view. And the American people need alarm bells. They need to be woken up. They need to be snapped out of it. They need to be activated. They need to be having these conversations. They need to be marching, meeting. They need to go into red states and red towns and red districts and having these conversations with people who feel this in real time because it's here. They have eroded it far enough that we are now on the precipice of the end, and we are not getting this back. And the last real bulwark that we may have is the midterms coming up that I fundamentally believe we will still have, and that we will fight tooth and nail to reclaim our very fragile hold on this democracy. So with that, happy birthday, Michael Cohen. Thank you for inviting me on your show on your birthday.
Well, I'm going to be inviting you to other places. I'm getting invited all over the place, to Yale, to Brown, to
Jeez.
NYU, to University of Minnesota. I was just asked to go to speak at university. So, want to bring obviously you and maybe a couple of other, folks so that we can actually these students can hear from not just one person, but from a multitude of people, because what you just said is painfully true.
Sadly, but it's not over. It's and I don't and I we're not gonna
No,
stop fighting.
no,
So,
we fight, fight, fight.
yeah. Thanks
Thank
everybody,
you,
by the way.
JoJo.
Michael, have a
Yep,
wonderful evening. If you have a lovely dinner, send pictures.
I sure will. Thanks,
Okay.
JoJo.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody.